Welcome to the Grow Your Practice podcast. Hi, I'm your host, Chad Madden, owner of Madden Physical Therapy and Breakthrough. Join me each week as we dive into the best practices, systems, principles, tips, and tricks to help you grow your private practice.
How do I plan for the upcoming year? Hey everybody, Chad Madden here with the Grow Your Practice podcast. And in this episode, I wanted to discuss a tool with you that I've been using in my practice for the last 20 plus years. Literally, I had done this exercise and discovered this tool before I opened in private practice. I'll share that story here with you during this episode. But I want to talk through the Profit Planner and also during this episode, I'll be sharing with you how you can get access, and I'll share the exact tool with you that I use. So as we're closing out the year here and coming up on and you're planning ahead for 2024, you can use this in your practice as well. So let's get started. I believe that if you can't write out and make a plan, a clear plan for your business, you're never going to make it happen in real life. So there's no real magic outside of being able to clearly and definitely write out what it is that you want to accomplish in the next year. So we know that if we're going to be whimsical and just rely on what the insurance company or marketplace is going to tell us we're worth, we're going to be in big trouble. There's been this gradual pressure over the last 20 or 30 years, with declining reimbursements, upward pressure on costs. This is nothing new to you. But how do we remedy that? Well, it all starts with a plan, and we have to be able to put this plan in place. So, what is it? I've put together a profit planner. Not only have I used it for our practice overall, and I've shared with you, we have a $20 million practice, 7 locations. Recently had a valuation done at 20.8 million. We have 100 plus employees. We have 7 directors, 50 plus clinicians right now. But in order to get all of that moving in the same direction, we have to have some sort of financial plan, a financial projection of what's going to be happening within our practice. So we know that we're going to be getting this roughly 3.3% Medicare cut. We know that, we see a certain percentage of our payer mix is Medicare, so we can forecast forward what's going to happen next year with, I believe here in 2023, we'll see roughly 108,000 visits. And next year, we're forecasting another 20% jump in visits year over year. So we can forecast forward with this tool. Now, why is this tool important? When I first opened up, I actually just found this book again, but I bought this book called The Unofficial Guide to Starting a Small Business. And this is in the early days of dreaming about owning my own private practice. It's roughly a 300-page book by Marsha Layton Turner. I'm not even sure if it's published anymore, but I went through and answered every question in that book. So much of it was on, market research and demographics of the area and, total addressable market. For me, the services that I would be providing, how I would be differentiated from my competitors, et cetera. And I answered all the questions in this book, and I put all the answers and all the research, all the work that I had done into this hideous gray 3-ring binder. And again, this is as I was planning on opening my private practice. Probably took me 3 months to go through the book. When I went in I went to it's Legacy Bank. That there's no longer a Legacy Bank. That's now First National Bank here in Central PA. But I was seeking a $50,000 SBA loan, small business loan to get started. And I spoke with the lending officer. Her name was Coletta Bruce. We had an appointment. I sat down, so proudly with this binder that I'm guessing I put 100 hours into creating this thing. And I sat down and she was like, okay, like, what are you asking for? I said the $50,000 SBA. I think it was a line of credit now that I think about it. But you get the idea to start this business. And she was like, okay, tell me about the business. And she was asking all these questions and just, very doing her job, looking interested in what I was saying. And as I was telling the story, she was flipping through this binder and she got to the pro forma and she said, time out. and she literally ripped the page, and it was so dramatic, but ripped the page out of the binder, and she said, "I'll be right back. This is all I need." She walked down the hallway. She came back a couple minutes later. I don't know. It seemed like 3 minutes. Maybe it was 20 minutes. And she said, "Yeah, we can do this. No problem." And what I had done on that page is I had forecasted months 1 through 12 in my first year in practice, and what our income and what our expenses would be and what my assumptions were around that. Now, I was way off in some of the specific numbers. However, I will tell you this. The projected income that I had was $113,000 on that 1 year financial plan. What I actually did was 113. So literally nailed it. And within $1,000, give or take, of the actual plan. Now, again, the details weren't exactly right, but I was really close. Why did I have the 113? This is a very selfish reason. But it was, my wife was pregnant. So I was in a less than a 1 year marriage. My wife was pregnant with our oldest son, and he would literally be born 13 months after we were married. And so she was 6 months pregnant with her son, and she was a school teacher. So we knew that the income that I had to generate in order for her not to be forced to go back to work. And we wanted to, that was important to us both. We had discussed that she could have the choice to go back to work or not. So then, we kind of justified it to ourselves. We were pretty young at the time, mid-20s. I think I was 26. And we said, well, this is pretty much the cost of a very nice new car, luxury car at the time. And, here's what happens if this doesn't work out. But that was the extent of what we thought. Very immature business acumen at the time, but I had gone through. But the point of the story is that this tool was super valuable to the banker because it painted the financial picture of what I was going to do in opening Madden PT and opening my private practice. To back that up, roughly a year later, so I opened up 49 South Prince Street. It was a 4,000 square foot building, approximately. I occupied half of that, 2,000 square feet. And the owner of that building I've always considered him one of my 3 business mentors. Now, this guy is fascinating. Build a $500 million portfolio, real estate portfolio in the commercial space from scratch here in Central PA. And fascinating. Had probably the most intelligent, articulate person I've ever talked with. 4 Ivy League degrees from 3 Ivy League schools, Penn, Wharton, and Harvard. Absolutely just a genius mind. And he invited me to dinner. And again, he owned the building. He was looking to sell the building, and he was consolidating into larger properties. So this 4,000 square foot building was, he was liquidating that. And then he was going into, everything was like 50,000 square feet plus, and consolidating his operations. So during the course of that dinner, the one thing that he kept going, he drilled this in for 3 hours, but it was this concept of y equals x to the nth. And he just kept going back to it. And he was like, this is the formula for compounding growth. And if you understand this, you're going to do amazing. And he was like, but if you don't, you're going to make some very big business mistakes. And he was like, you're young, you're learning, you're making mistakes right now, and that's a good thing. But you need to get better. The income, your portfolio, your investments, your ability to earn, everything else should be growing over time. And he said, here's the error that most people make. They go out and they see somebody who's far out on the curve. So if you don't know what y equals x to the nth looks like, you should take a look at it online. But it's basically this parabolic graph, or half of a parabolic graph, where you get this, very rapid growth. And some of the classic examples, that y equals x to the nth exponential growth curve is commonly used in the investing world, where somebody's talking about Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett literally can lose billions of dollars, gain billions of dollars in a day because, a 1% swing in his net worth is literally a couple $1 billion. So you get the idea there. But it wasn't always that way. And he said, what the error that most young business people make is they look at people that are way out on the curve. So they look at somebody who's been in business for 20 or 30 years and they try to act like that person is acting now. And what they ignore is what that person did 20 or 30 years ago. So he said, in the beginning, and again, he just kept trying to impress this on me over and over. He said, every business decision that you ever make, whether you're investing in commercial real estate, whether you're opening other physical therapy practices, you need to use this tool. Guess what? It was the same exact pro forma tool. And I believe the pro forma tool that Norm developed for commercial real estate ended up being used on a national level. So very much the standard. So learned it in commercial real estate. It's applicable to private practice PT. And today I use it when I'm evaluating any sort of business at all, whether, it's an angel investing opportunity or, if I'm looking at farmland or any other business opportunity, I go back and use this tool. And what it is a financial projection simply on your income. So what is the income for the projected period, whether it's a month, quarter, year, 5-year period? The longest one I've ever done is 13 years. But what's the projected income? What are the projected expenses? And what is the projected margin or profit? Right. So what can we expect here? And then you should have your, basic assumptions in there as well. So for example, I would work in for next year that our revenue for a certain percentage of our payer mix is going to be roughly 3% less in 2024 than it is here in 2023. The other thing that going through the exercise does is it helps you ask yourself better business questions, or at least that's what it's done for me and others that have used it. So it helps me convert my liabilities over into assets. Liabilities, we know, are things that increase our expenses without increasing our income. Assets are things that increase our income long term, right? So some examples of liabilities could be a car, right? A car, it costs money to fuel it, whether it's gas or electric. It costs money for maintenance, costs money for insurance, et cetera. And it depreciates in value typically over time. A home is typically a liability, especially if you're living in it and not renting it out in any way, because you have to pay for insurances, you have to pay for utilities, you have to pay for maintenance again, property taxes, et cetera. So it's a liability. And yeah, it's the bank that wants you to think about it, that it's an asset. That's a classic Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad line. But yeah, within our business, we have assets. It should be our people, right? The time available on our schedules, the services that we're providing, and the space that we have, the equipment that we have. They should be our assets, and liabilities within a practice are underutilized, all of the above. So underutilized space, underutilized clinician schedules, underutilized equipment. Again, why is this important, the pro forma? All of our directors use it. So each one of our 7 directors, before they opened a de novo, a new location, they have to go through this process. In fact, in our clinical director certification, it's the very first thing that we teach is the pro forma exercise, because we want them to be asking themselves better business questions. How am I going to make this work? So our 7 directors not only do it in a de novo situation, they do it at the end of each period. Really, it's at the end of the year, and they're all familiar with the now 10-year pro forma that we have. So we've covered so far what it is, why it's important. Again, it's a financial projection, this profit planner, or if you're a CPA, you might call it a pro forma. What happens when this isn't solved? Well, typically, and I've been witness to business situations where it's not involved, and I've probably am even guilty of entering into some things myself. What happens is, again, if you can't make it work on paper, there's no way that you're going to make it work on real life. So I'll give another example. About 6 months in to private practice, I was treating 2 personal trainers, and they had 2 female personal trainers. They wanted to open and I knew both of their families really well. They wanted to open a gym. And at the time, I think it was called Curves. was this female-only gym. It sounded like a pretty good model, but Planet Fitness was just coming through and wrecking everybody with their $10 a month pizza party model. And so nonetheless, Curves closed. There were all these trainers. They wanted to do something. I had extra space, about 600 extra square feet in the back, and we were going to open this this ladies' gym where all of these former members of Curves were going to come and use it, and I was basically going to earn a little bit of money. And my wife, who was a member of Curves, said, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And I showed her the list of equipment. I think I was buying like $35,000 in equipment, and she was like, "How much are you going to make from this?" And I went through and I like couldn't show her how I was going to make any money. And I think it came out to less than like $200 a month is what I'd make. And she was like, "No way." You're like, if you can't show me how this is going to work, why would you ever order $35,000 in equipment? And I immediately abandoned it. Fast forward last year, she was looking to buy a farm, and we did the same exact thing. So this was an equestrian training facility, and we did the same exact thing, and she couldn't make it work on paper, and we ended up backing out of the deal and not following through on the deal. So very important for you to when it's not addressed, when it's not done, what happens is you make financial mistakes. So you buy space you really don't need, you make a hire you don't really need, and you end up buying a liability, which is something that none of us want to have. So some of the pitfalls, most owners, my guess is 100% of owners at some point look at their P&L. So even if it's on an annual basis, most of us do it monthly, but you're looking at like some sort of profit and loss statement from your CPA, right? Or from QuickBooks or however you're doing your accounting. Or you're looking at your checking account balance, which is an even worse way to financially manage your business. Now, both of those things, whether you're looking at a P&L or you're looking at a checking account balance, are looking at the past. A pro forma and this tool, this profit planner, is looking at the future. So you're using your assumptions based on the past, your past behavior, to predict the future. What does that allow you to do? We have this diagram. I know you can't see it if you're listening to the podcast, but what it allows you to do is so once you have the profit plan in place, then you can go forward and you can say, okay, what are the profit levers? What are the strategic changes that I can make next year? Should I be adding a cash-based service? Do I have underutilized space or underutilized schedules that I need to fill? Should I be adding additional space? What does that look like? Do I need additional equipment? Things along those lines. Should I be dropping a lowest payer? Should I be attracting more of a higher payer? Those strategic questions, they can become overwhelming, especially when we don't have a plan in place. When we do have a plan in place, then we can start to play around with, what does this look like when I add this service? What does this look like when I change my payer mix? They're the most important things that and again, I had said that when you go through this exercise and you have this tool, you're going to be asking yourselves better business questions. Unfortunately, pitfall number one is most of us just look at past behavior. We never, again, I would say 100% of us look at the past for the financials, and less than 5%, 10% of us are ever thinking about the future. This tool, a pro forma, a profit planner, looks ahead at the future. So where can you do this at? Lots of different tools. You can use Excel, you can use numbers, you can use the Google Sheets. I'm willing to offer this, exactly the exact tool that we're using. So you can download that. I'll need to get you a URL. We'll put it in the show notes, how you can download the tool. In terms of how to do it, it's going to be tough to do on a podcast episode here, but you can do a 1 month projection. You can do a 1 quarter projection. You can do a 1 year projection. You can do a 5-year projection. I've done up to 13 years. It would be a major win for you if you've never done this before to have 2024 planned out. Usually that's an ideal time. This is something that you probably shouldn't, hide in a folder. You should be sharing this with your team, painting the vision. All right. The other changes, the other how-to we've talked about here, you do want to factor in changes, any changes in assumptions that you're going to have. When is the ideal time to do this? We're coming up on the end of the year. This is the ideal time. So there's typically a marcation point or some sort of change in the calendar. It can be the end of a quarter, end of a year, end of a 5-year period, end of a 3-year period, however you think about that. But now is usually the time to be thinking forward. The last thing that I want to cover here is the benefit of the benefit. So, yes, it's great for you as a practice owner to have a financial plan, financial projection for what you and your team are going to accomplish next year. Why is that important? Well, we're all human beings, right? We all have lives outside of our businesses. We're husbands and wives and fathers and mothers and sons and daughters. And there's other family members that we're taking care of. So what it has done for me, and I shared the story with the gym equipment purchase of how we were going to open up a gym and have a membership that was going to, break even or make just some change monthly. Wasn't really going to be worth our while. I share that with you. What a good financial projection does is it gets our team aligned, which does wonders for us long term, gets everybody rowing in the same direction. At home, it gets our partner online. I know many times I've gone to Steph and, if I can't make something work on paper, she knows that I'm not going to be able to make it work in real life. So it keeps me in check, accountable. Why is that important? Because, I have a responsibility to her and our 6 children and my parents and her parents and our extended families. And I want to uphold that, right? I want to be, as most of us do, we want to be respected within our families and follow through on the promises of of what we've made to them. So that's, for me, that's one of the key reasons is why is it's important. I want to be a respected business person, right? So the other, I don't want to be foolish. I don't want to have to close my doors or lay off people or be not respected within our community. And I think many of you feel the same way. The other one is, right now within private practice, we have a real issue with declining margins. And I know that, when I look at healthcare spending over the last 20 years, 25 years, my professional career here in physical therapy, the trends are not good. And while healthcare as a whole has grown dramatically, the latest numbers 2022, we're spending over $13,000 per year per person. I know that a smaller and smaller fraction of that is going to conservative care and especially physical therapy. And that's not in alignment with my beliefs in any way. I think, as physical therapists, as conservative care service providers, we provide the greatest outcome per dollar in all of healthcare. And that prevention is the key. It's absolutely insane that 90% of what we're spending in healthcare, that $13,000 a month, goes towards reactive medicine that frequently is unnecessary per research and does not address the root cause of the problem. But I know what we can do for a $1,200 plan of care on average in PT and the lasting effects that has for our patients that we're helping. So, it's really an altruistic vision. I don't think the healthcare system is right. And I really think that now digging into the numbers, which are readily available online, you can go to cms.gov and read them for yourself. I can't see that and ignore it. So there's something that I have to do about it. And I can't really do that if our doors are closed because I can't run a private practice that has a reasonable margin of safety or profitability. So that's one of the benefits. The other one is, most of us as family people, whether we're taking care of our parents or taking care of our children, or grandchildren, we're looking at experiences. Those experiences cost money. There was you and I took a risk to go into private practice years ago, and we expect a certain reward. For some of us, that might be looking at a certain standard of living in retirement. For others, we're looking to buy experiences with our children, grandchildren, parents. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a responsibility in that and a benefit that, I get to have. Just a few months ago, we took, I think it was 15 people. So we took my in-laws, my parents, and 5 of our children, Steph and I did, on an Alaskan cruise. It was like this, bucket list thing that we wanted to do. There was a price to that, right? That wasn't free. And while I want, Royal Caribbean, I think that's who we cruised with, to give us that cruise for free, that's not realistic. So there was a cost to that. We wanted to do that for our parents, before. Honestly, we wanted to have that experience while we still could. And we were able to do that. So I know that that doesn't happen if I don't have this tool in place. So again, you can go to the show notes for that URL, the link, but I'm sharing with you my exact planner for 2024. My request to you is that you use it, in your private practice, that you help correct the healthcare system that we have here in the U.S. In your community. You flip the script. You put conservative care first. You leave a lasting impact. You help people get back on their feet, overcome their health challenges naturally, with the services that you're providing. That's my only request. If you're going to use it for good. Use it for benefactor, or use it for the benefit of society, as you're planning forward. Anyhow, hope this helps you out tremendously, and you're doing well, and you have a great 2024. Thank you for listening.